Yes, he is wearing a Mega Charizard shirt in the same video that he's about to talk a ton of shit about Mega Charizard, yeah. First of all, if you're here for a giveaway, go watch last week's Hottest Cards of the Week, the first 2 minutes. You have till Friday to enter that massive, almost $300 giveaway.
Mega Evolution.
The era is what I'm going to talk about right here and now. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last, I don't know, since October of last year when I made that one Pokemon Center ETB video, buy it now, and then they all sold out, all the way through this year, not as it relates to sealed products, but Pokemon cards, I have gotten tons of messages from tons of viewers over the last almost year saying, holy crap, Mimic Brew, ever since I started watching your channel, I have made an absolute ton of money. I have made a ton of money since I started paying attention to you, following your strategies, cheap cards, blah, 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 minty, grading, flipping, blah, blah, blah. I've made a lot of money. So I feel like when it comes to this Mega Evolution era, if I'm going to speak positively about things all the time on here, on this channel, and people are going to make, decisions based on that and make a bunch of money, well, I think it's only fair that if I'm thinking negatively about something and I'm acting, bearish, not bullish, behind the scenes and everyday collecting life, investing life, I should probably be very transparent with that as well. So the same people that made all this money off watching my channel don't continue using the same strategies, continue doing the same thing into the Mega Evolution era, not realizing because I kept my mouth shut that I am no longer doing those strategies, doing those things. So I almost feel like it's literally my responsibility, whether positive or negative, to give you my opinion on things related to whether it be collecting to help you save money or investing maybe to help you make money. The Mega Evolution, the entire era, that is what I'm going to talk about. You know what? I'm even going to take my headset off for this. So this is a super personal heart-to-heart, and it's just me and you. We're talking and we're just kind of brainstorming on how we're going to handle the next year and a half, and if we're going to keep dumping money into 1 in 8 hit rate illustration rares tied to small sets at max print demand.
You serious?
The Phantasmal Flames, Gold Charizard, and SIR Charizard might end up being one of the biggest traps in new collector raw Pokemon card purchase history. Literally.
No! No!
If you buy the Charizard SIR or the Gold in the next month, you might be down hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of dollars by, let's just say, March of next year. Maybe even by Christmas. So right off the bat, coming from somebody who, as we found out last week, for whoever watched that video, I apparently own 800 illustration rares, and I was not even counting Black Star promos, and I own at least 50 Mimikyus from Pele and Fate, so I probably own 1,000 illustration rares. And coming from someone who owns 1,000 illustration rares, I'm telling you, I do not see any value gained in Mega Evolution illustration rares for at least 2 years, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you that I think every illustration rare in the entire Mega Evolution era will literally perform like every art rare over the last 2 years. Ladies and gentlemen, Japanese art rares over the last 2.5 years have done horrible, abysmal, absolutely atrocious, unless their name is literally Magikarp, Seismitoad, and a little bit of Groudon and T-Tar. The vast majority of Japanese art rares are worth absolutely nothing, and I am someone who spent a lot of money and bought a lot of art rares a year and a half ago. Basically the first 6 months, 9 months of the era, I bought a ton of Japanese art rares. They are all worth just as much today, essentially, as they were 2 years ago, with the exception of the Magikarps that I paid $13 for. Okay, so one AR turned out well. But why is that? Is it just because Japanese isn't hot right now? Well, kinda, but not really. The reason is, all Japanese sets are freaking tiny. All art rares, all Japanese art rares, they are abundant as hell. Every set that comes out, there's 500 of them available on eBay from Japanese sellers. English sets are a combination of multiple smaller Japanese sets. The individual pull rate for an IR versus an AR is so incredibly different that it literally makes the difference between them being completely uninvestable versus being exceptionally investable. Hence why I just stopped buying art rares and started putting all my money into illustration rares. So, here we are in the Mega Evolution era, where nobody is talking about this, but my god, is it so incredibly important that the IRs were nerfed down to 1 in 8 from 1 in 12. That is a massive difference. The number 8 and the number 12 don't seem like they're that far apart, but when you're talking about hit rate, and especially when you're attaching it to very small sets, that is an absolute massive impact on supply and demand, okay? As much as we think, oh, art matters, I got news for you. Art don't matter. It's an excuse for when we pump things. What really matters is supply and demand. Only supply, only demand actually move prices. When there's a million ARs, or you have a very tiny set that has 12 IRs, English, in it, and they're 1 in 8, a month from now, you are going to have so many copies of every IR on TCG Player, the price has no choice but to be tiny due to supply and demand. So when it comes to specifically illustration rares in the Mega Evolution era, I buy certain ones that I like with no rush whatsoever. Literally, I've bought about 5 or 6 Stuffles from Mega Evolution base set because I really like the Stuffle. And every time I find one that looks like a 10, I'll buy it because it's like $6 now. Who cares? The point is, I could easily go without buying those, and I know probably in, summer of next year, that Stuffle will probably be $5. It might even be $4, and I feel very confident in saying that. So my advice to you as it relates to illustration rares in the Mega Evolution era is to take your time. Buy them whenever you'd like. Literally, do not rush and buy the newest IRs as fast as possible. You have literally all the time in the world to buy Mega Evolution illustration rares. I'm not going to prioritize these things probably for another year, literally. Okay, now let's talk about both the really expensive Zards from Phantasmal Flames. The fact that the gold Phantasmal Flame Zard is the only gold matters so much more than anyone will ever give credit to until the card is only worth $500 or $600. The fact that Phantasmal Flames has 1 gold Charizard is the single biggest factor in it tanking massively. Do not get shit twisted. Just because it has Charizard on it or it says Charizard does not mean it will stay expensive. In fact, the best product the Pokemon Company has literally ever made, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, is the Charizard UPC. And that product, and its overprinted to the ground narrative, is part of the reason a lot of people say the entire Pokemon market collapsed back when that thing was released. And it was a Charizard UPC with 3 beautiful promos. And guess what?
Everyone left the hobby.
Now let's get to the SIR. Ladies and gentlemen, Phantasmal Flames has 5 total SIRs. Okay? Prismatic Evolutions, what is that, 32 or 34? There's a reason the Umbreon is worth $1,000. Okay? That 30-something is a much bigger number than 5 when it comes to a rarity tier that is 1 in 80 packs. 5 options when you hit makes that card significantly easier to pull than something like, let's just say, a Prismatic Evolutions SIR, because a lot of those are worth a lot of money. If you think a year from now, Charizard SIR from Phantasmal Flames will be worth as much or more than the Prismatic Umbreon, you gotta really hope to God that some really deep pocket raw Pokemon card investor Timmy bros buy out Charizard SIR. Yes, I'm talking about the cool one everyone loves with Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard, and Mega, all 4 of them on the same card. The only way that card stays over $1,000 is if every 6 months a group of people or a really rich Charizard simp buys out all the copies on TCG Player over and over again. Just because Phantasmal Flames, the Charizard set, is the new hot thing we are all going to be talking about for the rest of the year does not mean there will not be a million copies available over the next year because of set size. I know, it gets annoying to hear that set size matters. But set size immediately correlates with supply and demand when it comes to raw Pokemon card singles. So moral of the story on that one, Gold Charizard will be worth significantly less a year from now. SIR Charizard will be worth significantly less 1 year from now. Alright, now let's get into the Mega Evolution in its entirety. In general, I'm going to use a metaphor or an example to explain this. Okay, let's say you're a medieval soldier, okay? And all of a sudden, one morning, it's a random Wednesday morning, you hear a bell, and people are like, attack, we're getting attacked, go to war. And then it turns out an entire army in the middle of the night just showed up, and they're at your wall, at your gates, and all of a sudden, you just woke up and you're at war. And you're like, okay? So that is essentially Twilight Masquerade and the Pokemon Company's current printing situation around Twilight Masquerade. Basically, an onslaught of demand just kind of bubbled up in kind of mid 2024, which, created war, apocalypse, mayhem. The only reason we have 2025 in the parabolic nature that was the last 9 months is because the Pokemon Company
was not ready for war.
They were not ready to meet the supply and demand needs that happened almost overnight and that kept building from literally Twilight Gatorade to TCG Pocket into that Prismatic Evolutions PC ETB pre-order, which was the official end of the end. They were not ready for war. Period. Now here we are, Mega Evolution. We are almost a year into this war. This has been going on for a while now. Now Mega Evolution era has begun, and now they've had a year to prepare for this battle. They know this battle is coming. They know they have to load all the cannons. They know they have to get everyone ready, well fed, ready to fight. Okay, so what I'm saying is the Mega Evolution in the era in its entirety, ladies and gentlemen, is being printed at max ammo, max demand, max velocity. The Pokemon Company, I said it once, I'll say it again. Nobody is better at making money than the Pokemon Company International. And they know now, oh, the more we print, the more money we make. You bet your ass we are loading all the cannons and printing the hell out of Mega Evolution. Period. Straight up. Supply and demand is going to be significantly less of a problem for the Mega Evolution era as opposed to the early Scarlet and Violet era, because the Pokemon Company themselves were literally ready for war. So what does this all mean for me, the collector, the investor, the PokeTuber? What this means for me is, one, I have exceptionally lofty, ridiculous goals that are tied to the Scarlet and Violet era specifically that I'm public about. For example, I talked about last week how I am almost done with the Scarlet and Violet era as far as master setting the entire era. So I'm absolutely going to prioritize finishing that. But I have an even bigger goal that is going to probably take me the entire Mega Evolution era to finish, and then some anyway, and it's related to Scarlet and Violet illustration rares and grading with PSA, and it's a goal that I've already been working on for 2 years. It's a goal I'm literally already 2 years in, and I've barely even gotten started, it feels like. So a lot of Scarlet and Violet era goals, a lot of Scarlet and Violet era content, a lot of stuff for me over the next year and a half is going to stay in the Scarlet and Violet era. And a part of that is because, like a lot of people, You have the four corners of the Pokemon hobby. You have the players, you have the collectors, you have the investors, and then you have the scalpers. I am not a scalper, but I am a little bit of an investor and a collector, and I have a lot more fun buying Pokemon cards when I have this feeling in the back of my head that they're gonna go up in value soon, as opposed to a feeling of, oh, these are gonna be completely stagnant or go down in value over the next year. And that's kind of the feeling that I had about Japanese ARs about a year and a half ago. Once I saw the writing was on the wall and they're just way too prevalent and Japanese is kind of dying off. And that's kind of how I feel about Mega Evolution. Not only the era, but especially the Mega Evolution illustration rares, because 1 in 8 is just too damn easy to be doing that with tiny sets. It just, you can't add value that way. So this is a good thing if you are a collector. Literally follow the regular strategy, wait a month or two after a set releases, then buy your singles. I think that will work out very well for you for the Mega Evolution era. You could probably even pause till like next summer and then go hard on Mega Evolution everything, because maybe you still got a bunch of work and stuff you got to do with SV stuff, like me. That's literally kind of my current operating like plan, is I'm not even really gonna dabble and put a bunch of money into the Mega Evolution until I feel really satisfied and done with my Scarlet and Violet era collecting goals and just collecting in general with that era. And I feel like that era came out at a really good time as far as investability, whereas the Mega Evolution came out at a horrible time when it comes to investability. The Mega Evolution, one, Pokemon Company is ready for war. Everything is getting printed to max demand, but even worse, the market prices are baked in at release. So do not expect to make a ton of money over the next year and a half off Mega Evolution sealed products if you're paying a market price up front, and especially do not at all expect to make a ton of money off Mega Evolution singles. And this is coming from one of the only people on the internet that's a self-proclaimed raw Pokemon card investor in a world surrounded by sealed investors. I'm telling you that I am not going to be dumping a ton of money into anything from the Mega Evolution era for probably a year or so. And a part of that isn't just because I like my money, it's because I like buying things where in the back of my head I think they're about to go up in price, not sit stagnant for the next 2 years. That's my opinion. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the video. And unlike Pokeball, I actually do have a 5% plus female audience ratio. And on that note alone, I just wanted it to be known that VAULTX, ladies and gentlemen, the best binders in the world, just re-upped on all their pink and purple binders. And if you use code VAULTXBrew at checkout, you will receive 10% off your pink or purple brand new VAULTX binder, and between now and the end of the year you will receive a free custom Derpy Cube
from your boy.
That's all I got. Let me know, do you think Phantasmal Flames gonna do great, or it's gonna come out like a wet fart? And then same question for the entire era, what is your plan? Are you gonna hold off? Do you love this new stuff, or do you think this whole era is just this economy stopgap that was kind of rushed, and it's just kind of this weird awkward thing until we get to the 30th anniversary and the actual next era? Because yeah, I have a lot of love and a lot of good feelings about the Scarlet and Violet era, and for whatever reason I don't share those same passionate feelings about this Mega Evolution era. And I think it's because the whole era was born in like scalper hype boy sneaker bro central. I don't know, I don't appreciate it. I love the art, there ain't nothing wrong with Mega Evolution artwork. I think Mega Evolution base set is awesome, but again, when it comes to supply and demand and like making money and planning for that kind of stuff, I don't think Mega Evolution is going to be very fruitful for you in the near future. Alright, that's all I got.
Forever.